Hi guys, it's me, your professor, and we are going to go through an example of a memoir essay. I wanted to start off by reminding you what the structure of the memoir essay is. This is from your lesson, and it shows exactly how the memoir essay should be. Now, one thing that I didn't say in the lesson is that this particular memoir essay could be more than 5 paragraphs. Although there are five blocks here, this essay could have maybe 3 blocks of evaluation or 2 blocks of evaluation in an additional resolution. So let's consider these actual sections rather than paragraphs. Okay, so let's get started. I wanted to go through this essay. This is actually an essay from a former student of mine. And I wanted to go through it and kind of point out some things. This is an essay that received a 100, or actually an A, I should say, not a 100. It received an A. And is an essay that I want to go through with you. So when you're learning to formulate your own essays and what you want to do, you'll have an example. So um, I have, I'll have with this video an actual copy of this essay. So you can look at this essay and there'll be another student essay as well to look at. So one of the interesting things about an introduction is that you want it not only to give you the thesis, but you want to have some context. So we have here in that first sentence here that this is about cultural history and this student's impact with the cultural history he's about to face. And kind of what he thinks about it. I didn't care about any of this. It was unnecessary in my eyes. So we get his opinion and the context. And that's what it means. It's the background of it. Background doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to give you the history of where we're going to go or the history of this situation. It could be your thoughts on it. And so he tells us that this essay is going to be about cultural history and how people act about it, what and how that impacts their lives. And his opinion, don't care. Unnecessary. I wasn't concerned about anyone's cultural past or what race they were. So we have this wonderful context, and then we have this wonderful thesis. Remember, the thesis always goes the last sentence, and sometimes you can find it in the next to the last sentence of a um, introductory paragraph. In this case, it's the last sentence. So you have, I figure that everyone would have my same viewpoint of different cultures of races if they knew how I felt. So we have someone here having a very strong opinion, and they're kind of hinting at what's to come. Now, a thesis for a memoir essay is not as structured as the thesis for the upcoming essays that you are about to learn. So when we're thinking about a thesis of a memoir essay, think of it as a cliffhanger. If you read mysteries or thrillers, or if you love watching episodic TV, um, Grey's Anatomy is a very good example sometimes. If you're watching Doctor Who, if you're watching any episodic television where there's a big narrative arc in it, at the end of the episode, there's a cliffhanger, and that you have to tune in next week to understand how that's going to resolve itself. And then when you watch that episode, then there's another cliffhanger. And that's how Netflix actually makes lots of money. And so when you're thinking about a thesis for the memoir essay, you want to think about a cliffhanger for the thesis. So we know that we have here the, and let me go, we know that we have the thing after the introduction is the description of the complication. This particular section could take a couple of paragraphs, and they shouldn't be long paragraphs. They should be relatively short paragraphs, maybe mid-sized paragraphs. So we'll have the description, then the evaluation, and then the resolution. So let's go back and see if this particular student has done this. Growing up as a kid, I never really paid attention to what my parents tried to teach me about my Black history. From car ride lectures to being dragged to listen to a public speaker, I was forced into being exposed to my curtained history. being blatantly defiant every time I would be lectured about my history. I would escape off into an imaginary world where race and culture were never an issue and never would be. So, looking back at our structure, is he describing a complication? Yes, indeed. He is absolutely describing a complication. And this is a conflict. His parents want him to know about this. He's not about that life. So let's continue. When it was known that my family would be making a trip to the Martin Luther King Museum in Atlanta, an outrage inside of me, so spiteful and pessimistic, unleashed. Okay, so we get more context, more background, and now he is actually answering the question of where are we? He's giving us some context. He's putting the reader right there. There's some concrete things in this sentence. We know that this is a family trip to a museum about Dr. King. It's in Atlanta, and we know how he feels about it. He is spiteful and pessimistic. And this is a very, very good topic sentence because this particular sentence sets up this paragraph. And this paragraph goes on to talk about how he's feeling about it, um, how he is not about this, um, why he's not about this trip, um, and why this isn't something that really is going to solve his life's problems. He has it here. In my mind, the best way to solve the racial issues that were present was to act like the past never happened, proceed to live in the present, and a better future. Right? So we have here an evaluation of the complication here. So we have the complication. He is on a family trip to the MLK Museum in Atlanta, and his parents want him to know more about Black history. He's not about it. He doesn't think it's useful. And so we're evaluating the complication here, and we are seeing that he is not about this life, as I said it before. And then he gives us some details. He talks about arriving at the site, what he saw, and then what he thought. Now this is important because this is a memoir essay. What he thought is extremely important. It was to my surprise when I saw a white person at the museum. I thought to myself, maybe they were lost. I wouldn't have thought that a national museum for an African American would be the last place any Caucasian would want to be. I was even more astonished to see many more of them as we toured through the museum. I was it, it was pleasant in my eyes to not only see whites, but many people of multitude of different races so interested and excited to view and learn about my Black history. Although I still had an attitude, seeing the history of my people have significance to others and impact their lives brought a slight smile to my face. It warmed my heart. So we have this evaluation, this description. Now he's evaluating it. And you see he's slowly and surely resolving this. And this complication is really playing out in his head. And he's learning from this experience. So that's what you kind of want to do with your essay, right? You're describing the complication, you're evaluating it. The evaluation, there's several sites at this place. My parents dragged me here, but here I am, and let's go. And look, there's people here from different races and colors enjoying this experience that I should be enjoying. And so he starts to open up, and we have a resolution of the complication. All of this is his thoughts, really, right? So we have the resolution here coming quickly. I apologize. Instead, I apologize to Dr. King and his wife for discrediting all they stood for and for the fight they fought so the next generation could have better. The third and final site of the museum was Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Dr. King attended. There was a divine sense in the air, and chills ran up and down my spine that gave me goosebumps once I realized I was standing in the footsteps where Dr. King once stood before me. At this point in time, my philosophy and perception of my history had completely been shattered. So we have this resolution. He's finally in that place. And so now we have a conclusion. I enjoyed touring around the museum and learning about the past that makes up my Black culture. I was no longer ashamed of my skin color, no longer afraid to speak out on my history, and no longer cared what anyone thought. They didn't have to walk in my shoes or face my hardships. I was proud and took dignity in being an African American. And that's the conclusion. So, did this essay, going back, have an introduction? Did it set the scene? It absolutely did. Now, the scene, you're probably saying no, because he didn't start describing the museum until a paragraph or two below. But the scene here is pretty much his attitude. That's the context of it. How and what he thought about this experience he's about to have. Did he describe the complication? He absolutely described the complication. The complication is my parents want me to do this. I don't think that's the right answer. I kind of want to forget about this because I don't think that's going to solve anybody's issues or anybody's problems. Then the evaluation, oh, I'm sorry. Then the evaluation of the complication. Um, did he evaluate the complication? He absolutely did. He had his own theory and his own thoughts. And then he went and started describing the museum and the museum grounds and the people who were there. And you started to see things kind of shift within him, right? All in his head, all the feelings, all his opinions and his memory. The resolution, did he have one? Absolutely. By the end of this experience, this short memory of this experience that he had, his thoughts shifted. Conclusion, what he learned, he's very proud of his history. So this particular essay fulfilled the entire structure of the memoir essay. Now, yes, there were a couple of wonderful little flubs here with the grammar, particularly the word sight. He used the word sight, S-I-G-H-T, and it should be S-I-T-E because S-I-G-H-T is about vision, and site, SITE, is about location or website. So there's a couple things here, um, which is why it was an A, not 100. But it was a very well written essay. So I hope this helps you with your essay. I'm going to have this here so you can actually see this essay. Let me know if you have any questions.